Ooh. Isn't that cool? That's cool, huh? Oh. This, my friend, is an ND filter. Hey, I'm John Bear. So happy to see your beautiful face. Today, I'm gonna talk about variable ND filter. I'm gonna talk about what it does, why you need one, and I'm gonna tell you which one to buy. Roll the intro. Alright, so at first glance, an ND filter is basically sunglasses for your camera. Why does your camera need sunglasses? Because as we all know, sunglasses are cool. But that's not the real reason. Just like how you might be using sunglasses when you go outside when it's too bright, your camera needs sunglasses as well when it's too bright. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. John, I've used my camera outside many times and I never used an ND. What gives? Why do I need one? Well, I'm glad you asked. Generally, your camera has three things to control exposure: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. So when you go outside and use your camera, either the shutter speed or the aperture is going to be turned way up to let in less light so that the camera can actually see. Otherwise, the image looks like this. So why is that bad? Well, depending on how you set your shutter speed and your aperture, you're gonna get a more cinematic image. So if you have to crank those two way up, you're not gonna get a very cinematic image at all. So let's talk about shutter speed first. Right now I'm recording at 180 degrees shutter speed, or twice my frame rate. This means that when I move my hand, you're gonna get very realistic motion blur. You're gonna want that motion blur because it just looks very smooth and cinematic. If you crank your shutter speed all the way up, you're gonna lose that motion blur. And I know what you're thinking, what's the big deal? Let me demonstrate. Here's me with realistic motion blur. Here's me without motion blur. Looks kind of weird, isn't it? Like a little choppy, like not realistic at all. So normally you might not notice when the shutter speed is way off, but I guarantee you'll feel it. And when the shutter speed is just right, people will just know that your footage just looks better. They will say it looks cinematic. Alright, so let's not crank up the shutter speed. Gotcha. Message received, right? So what about the aperture? Why would you not want to close the aperture when you go outside? Well, think about it like this. People will spend tons of money to buy really fast lenses so that they can open up that aperture way up. For example, this one of my favorite lenses, Kamlan f1.1. This lens is marketed as a bokeh beast. For those of you who don't know, bokeh is the background blur that you get when you have a fast aperture. Like I said, the faster the aperture, the more you generally have to pay for your lens. And what you get from having a fast aperture is that you can create that nice subject separation, the background blur. And again, this contributes to a very cinematic image. But if you take a fast lens and you go outside on a sunny day and you open the aperture way up, your image is gonna look like this. So you follow me so far? So motion blur, good. Blurry backgrounds, good. Why? Because it looks cinematic. But on a sunny day, you can't do that unless you use an ND. So you're following me so far? So to summarize, the ND filter limits the amount of light that comes into your lens so that you can keep your camera settings cinematic. Nowadays, everybody has smartphones with really high quality video. So if you ask me, having nice motion blur and blurry backgrounds or bokeh are two of the reasons why you want to go with professional gears in the first place. Because these are the things that you can't do well with smartphones yet. Basically, motion blur and bokeh is what sets you apart. It's what makes you look professional. And if you're investing in all this expensive camera gear anyway, you might as well just get an ND. It's gonna cost you like 40 bucks. So by now I think it's very clear why you should be using an ND. Honestly, personally, for the longest time, I just didn't buy an ND. I thought I didn't need it. When I finally bought one, it just blew my mind. It's like, why didn't I do this sooner? This thing is way more important than a lot of the other camera gear that you might be investing in. So this finally brings us to which ND should you get? There are two kinds of NDs. There's the regular one, where you have to swap out the ND depending on the strength. Generally, the regular ones will be more high quality, but you're gonna have to spend the time to actually, take it off and put another one on all the time. It's a bit of a hassle, and you have to carry all these NDs around. And then there's the variable ND, like this one. All you have to do is you have to spin the top to adjust the strength. This one here goes from ND2 to ND32. If you follow my channel, you know that I love fast lenses. I shoot at f1.1, f1.4, so you're gonna need an ND that can keep up. This one at ND32 is enough. It does the job. perfectly. Seriously, these are so handy. You could be vlogging and then you're inside and then you go outside and you just turn it to adjust the exposure and boom, perfect. Everything looks cinematic. Just keep your camera settings consistent and then this is all you have to turn. Imagine the convenience. Just all of your exposure controlled by this little thing on top. Amazing. Now the final question might be, do I have to buy one for every single lens that I use? No. Not really. Not if you're smart. Like me. What I did is I bought one size. So this fits on my biggest lens, but then I bought step-up rings. So for example, going back to the Kamlan, if I want to put this guy on top of this guy, well, it's not gonna fit. If I put some step-up rings on first, like so, then I can fit it perfectly fine. Voila, looks so nice. The step-up rings are dirt cheap, so you might as well just pick them up as well. That's it for today. I hope you learned something valuable, and if you did, hit that like button and maybe share it with a friend. I'm John Bear, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.